2013 Super Mario 3D World was one of the biggest first-party titles on the Wii U. It was the first 3D Mario game allowing for 4-player co-op, and while not as good as a Mario Galaxy game, it still was a welcome addition to the console. However, there was one thing that stood out in the game, being these side levels where one player plays as Captain Toad on the Wii U gamepad and must collect 5 green stars in a cubic stage. These little levels were a welcome addition to the game, and most people didn't think much about it. At least until the summer of 2014.
When Nintendo announced that the concept of these side levels would be turned into Toad's second ever standalone adventure. Releasing that holiday season for the Wii U was a game called Captain Toad Treasure Tracker.
In this episode of Cartridges and Consoles, we'll look into this unique take on a Mario-esque platformer and see how such a small concept could become a fun and intriguing, fully fledged game.
Now before we dive in, let it be known that there are technically 2 versions of this game. The Wii U version, which was released in 2014, and the 3DS and Switch part of the game 4 years later. The 3DS and Switch versions have some differences in terms of content and mechanics, so for simplicity's sake, I will only be talking about the Wii U version here. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker is a puzzle platformer game, and I use the term platformer lightly because there's one aspect of a typical platformer game missing here. That being the ability to jump. Like in the Super Mario 3D World mini stages, Captain Toad lugs a heavy backpack around, and as a result, cannot jump. The story of the game is relatively simple. After a treasure hunt gone wrong, a power star you find alongside Toadette are carried away by the treasure-hoarding crow, Wingo. Your goal is to try and traverse through levels to find Toadette and collect as much treasure as you can along the way, including coins, golden mushrooms, super gems, and of course, power stars. The main way to traverse these levels is by using the functionality of the Wii U gamepad. By using the gamepad, you can rotate the camera to look around the stage, use the touchscreen to interact with the environment, and in specific levels, hit enemies with turnips in a first-person perspective. Which means, yes, this game is technically also a first-person shooter.
I feel like I'm committing a sin here.
As for other basic controls, Captain Toad is able to walk and run, and instead of a jump button, he has the ability to pluck up plants to reveal coins, items like mushrooms, turnips which he can hurl at enemies, and finally the super pickaxe, which allows Toad to break through blocks and plow through enemies for a short amount of time. Once you finally reach Wingo's tower and defeat the crow, you then collect the power star he stole alongside Toadette, and the game ends. Or does it? Turns out that's just one of the 3 main books or sets of levels the game has in store. In the second book, you play as Toadette trying to save Captain Toad, and rounding out the base game is the third book, which has you playing as both characters trying to reunite with one another. Every level in the main books has 3 super gems to collect alongside an extra challenge to complete. This challenge can be anything like defeat all the enemies, collect a certain amount of coins, find the hidden golden mushroom, or literally anything else. Additionally, throughout these 3 books, you'll encounter special page fillers that will slide into the book. These page fillers temporarily take up a normal stage slot and bring you to a special mini-stage. This mini-stage can either be a level solely dedicated to grinding coins, or a Mummy Me maze where you're chased by an enemy that tracks your every move step by step and will damage you if you run into it. Lastly, finishing the game unlocks a bonus book which includes extra levels, such as the prologue levels for each book, 4 levels where you must find all 3 extra members of the Toad Brigade, and remixes on stages with the Mummy Me mechanic. There's also 4 stages from Super Mario 3D World you can play through, and if you have save data for Super Mario 3D World on your Wii U, you unlock these levels before beating the game. The last thing the game has is amiibo support. For those who don't know, amiibos are figurines that can interact with your game by giving you extra content. In Captain Toad, almost every amiibo you scan on the gamepad will give you extra 1-ups. But if you scan the Toad amiibo, you will start a game of hide and seek on the stage you're currently highlighted on. This means you have to try and find a pixel Toad somewhere in the level, and once you tap on him on the gamepad, you get an extra mark on that level's page in the book. Now there's a lot of things this game does right, and one thing is the level design. While almost every level shares the simple design quality of being a cubic shape, they all simultaneously have an enticing layout defining them as much more than that. There's secrets to uncover, different types of enemies to defeat, and much more, helping every level stand out. On top of that, the game is pretty quick to beat. There's only around 60 levels in the base game, and you can beat the game in around 7 hours if you don't focus on completion status. However, if you are the type to complete a game, which in this case means collecting every super gem, completing every extra challenge, and finishing the bonus 4th book, then you have a lot of extra content to work through, meaning you'll have a lot of replay value. The game is also very forgiving to the player. If you collect a gem and lose a life before reaching the end of the stage, you are still counted as obtaining that gem, meaning you don't need to try and get it again. Speaking of lives, since you're constantly collecting coins throughout every level along your journey, you'll always have a buffer when it comes to how many lives you have. And that's excluding the coin grinding mini levels, the 1-ups scattered throughout each stage, and the amiibo support, which can give you more lives. I also think that the choice of main characters was a very smart decision here. Something about Captain Toad and Toadette being the starring characters just makes them fit so well in this game. And it's refreshing to see Toad get his first starring playable role in a game since Wario's Woods all the way back in 1994. Meanwhile, this also marked the first time Toadette was ever playable in a mainline game, and now seeing that she is a staple character in the mainline Mario entries, it shows how this game has had some impact on the franchise as a whole. The music is also pretty good in this game. Most of the music tracks are very similar to those from Super Mario 3D World, however there are some original pieces here and there that stand out. As for controls, the gamepad controls here feel pretty solid. You can comfortably play with the gamepad on your lap, on a table, or any way you want, and the controls will feel pretty fluent. The sections of the game where you must exclusively focus on the gamepad, like the minecart stages or the cannons, are also not that bad. You're given enough time to know that you need to switch your focus, and it's not complicated at all to do exactly that. However, even though the gamepad as the sole control method is good, there is one somewhat big issue that plagues the game revolving around it. Forced motion controls.
Ew! What the f-
Now, I'm not totally against motion controls as an option, but I am not the biggest fan of forced motion controls unless it's in a first-person shooter. Not named Captain Toad, where it makes the most sense. Granted, in this game, the motion controls are only used to move the camera around, and you can negate it by just putting the gamepad on your lap or on a table, but I do wish there was at least an option to turn it off completely.
Overall, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker is a very entertaining and fun take on the traditional game in its franchise. It takes a lot of inspiration from the mainline Mario Platformer games of a time, but also adds some unique elements to it to try and stand out, and the result is a fun and welcome deviation from the norm. It may not be the exact definition of a platformer, but it still is a game that anyone should try out, especially if you have a Wii U. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker on the Nintendo Wii U gets my rating of 9 cartridges out of 10.